Okay guys, I want to give you my thoughts on why I believe Jennifer Lawrence was a terrible choice for the role of Mystique. I believe after seeing X-Men First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past, I have an accurate basis for my criticisms. I do, however, feel that only watching one movie or even half of a movie would have been enough to deduce that she does not fit the role at all.
Fuck you!
Something that really bothered me during the time I was watching her scenes was her voice. Jennifer Lawrence made no attempt to change or add anything to her voice, which in turn might have added some uniqueness to the character. On the contrary, she actually kept her normal voice, which, to be blunt, is a grating one. I feel that this was a huge detriment to the movie because her voice prevented me from believing that Mystique was a powerful mutant. She just looked like a normal girl in a blue suit with a ton of makeup. This really disappointed me because after watching the previous movies starring Rebecca Roman, I had developed this image of an intimidating and deeply menacing character. I remember watching the movies as a child and feeling a certain unease when she appeared on screen. This might be because I was after all very young, but I honestly think a lot of that was because of the way Mystique sounded in those older movies, and because of the way she moved. Take this scene for example, one of my favorite in the original X-Men movie that came out 16 years ago.
Where the hell are we?
You know, people like you are the reason I was afraid to go to school as a child.
This scene is very successful in conveying the feeling of hopelessness in the face of danger. From the point of view of Senator Robert Kelly, we feel isolated because of the ocean below us, and through his eyes we witness the transformation of the thing he feared most, a mutant. This, added with the inhumanness of Rebecca's voice, really intensifies the feeling. Without this, the whole mood would have been shattered. Imagine if instead of hearing Rebecca's digitally altered voice, we would have heard Jennifer Lawrence's annoying one.
Where the hell are we?
Somebody, as a joke, bought me a bunch of butt plugs. Huge amount of different colored butt plugs.
Next thing that bothered me was Jennifer Lawrence's fighting scenes, mainly due to the fact that she wasn't as graceful as the old Mystique. Rebecca's attacks actually looked like they flowed and seemed really organic, kind of like she improvises every time she fights, but in a good way. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically what I'm trying to say is that she was unique. Also, the fact that she can perform these weird moves definitely add a new layer to her mutant powers. I mean, come on, she climbed a fucking pipe upside down. In comparison, Jennifer Lawrence seems way too ordinary. Don't misunderstand, her fight scenes are not bad, but they don't display any of the things present in Rebecca's scenes. Her fighting just seemed too human and generic. It almost reminded me of Black Widow's fighting style because she uses a lot of grappling. This might be because she had a different stunt choreographer and they couldn't give her the same moves to perform due to her not being as physically capable compared to Rebecca, who was casted for that specific reason. The use of cuts, edits, and slow motion are also used to compensate Jennifer's lack of fighting talent. I'm going to show you a clip in X-Men 2 where Mystique has to deal with a bunch of enemies in the same room, and I want you to notice that she deals with all of them almost simultaneously.
The one thing I know better than anyone is my own work. Seal the room. Shoot it.
Seal the room! Step away!
Wrecked 6 guys in 1 second. I've not seen anybody not do anything in that fight scene. That's what I want you to notice. That every guy in that room was doing something, was going at her. Now I'm going to show you a clip from X-Men Days of Future Past where Mystique is in more or less the same situation, except she has an easier time because they're not ready for it.
Your men are not military.
Private outfit. We're authorized to remand these men.
These troops are going home.
Well, Colonel, I don't believe you have jurisdiction in this matter.
I'm afraid I do, son.
I'm sorry, who are you?
The question is, Major, Who are you?
Raven.
That's not my name.
This fight scene was just sloppy with way too many convenient things happening. From a guy fumbling to pull out his gun, which I can kind of forgive, he was stressed after all, to a guy walking close to Mystique when he could have killed her safely from range with a gun, and another guy not even doing anything while his friends are getting owned. This was annoying to watch because I tend to notice shit that doesn't make sense, and this fight scene had way too many. Also, what was the purpose of the slow motion? In my opinion, a slow motion should always be dynamic to keep them interesting and should be used to emphasize a certain thing the director wants to highlight. All I got from this scene's slow motions were, "Look, I'm angry," and even that wasn't clear. To be honest, I don't even know what exactly was the purpose of it. This slow motion, however, was awesome because it's highly dynamic and it showed Mystique transforming in an original way. The last thing I want to bring up is something that has always bothered me. When will we have a female lead that can beat up people and look like they can do it? Because it really puts a strain on my suspension of disbelief when I see a 130-pound girl with next to no muscle mass beat up people twice her size. And I prefer not to explain everything with superpower, because if her power really made her strong, then it would change her physical appearance. That's what happens with male superheroes, so why should it not apply to female superheroes? And I will make a separate video on the subject, but for now I'll just like to bring this up because both Mystiques are guilty of this. And yes, I said both. I'm not a biased motherfucker, even though I sound like one sometimes. Another problem with Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique is that she wore a bodysuit, and the bodysuit looks retarded. It destroys my immersion when I see Jennifer perform a kick, and you can see the bodysuit stretch and give her crotch a weird look. Come on, man, I wanted to see some pussy! No, but seriously, this shit looks really bad when she performs her moves, and you clearly see that she's wearing something. Okay, so I did a 1-second Google search, and apparently the reason she wore a bodysuit is because the paint irritated her skin. Jennifer, I know that the makeup process is incredibly long, but you shouldn't have accepted the role if you weren't ready to make sacrifices. On a side note, why is the new Mystique such a flashy blue? It looks super fake and makes her look harmless.
12 seconds later.
Okay, I did another quick search, and apparently the real reason they decided to do this was because the darker blue from the older movies would fade in the dark.
But it was just finding the process because we didn't have the people who did the original. So it's finding the right shade of blue. They felt that the last blue might fade in the dark, so we were going lighter, but not as light as Avatar. So we did, I would say, 20 plus tests to find the right shade of blue on Mystique.
This makes no sense to me because in the previous movies there were no problems. I honestly believe this was a decision made to make her more noticeable so as to cash in on that Jennifer Lawrence fame. But I obviously don't know. I felt that the dark blue looked better because it made her look more menacing and it provided a way to hide imperfections in the makeup. The last thing I want to bring up is the biggest fucking sin in movie history. How the fuck is Mystique in the human form of Jennifer Lawrence? How the fuck is that possible? That would mean that she copied the form off of another Jennifer Lawrence in the Marvel X-Men world. Unless I missed something, she copies forms, she doesn't create them. They chose someone way too famous for this role and that forced the writers to make her a main character. I personally preferred it when Mystique was a side character who influenced the events from the sidelines. It just fit her powers so much better. But because she's a main character, we have to hear her whine about her appearance every goddamn time, which makes no sense when she has a human form. I mean, she isn't copying this form off of anyone, so what's the problem? I don't get it. Alright, so to conclude, Jennifer should have never been casted to play Mystique because of her voice, her lack of physical talent, and because she was too famous. The movies would have likely been better if she weren't in it because they would have focused on characters like Magneto and Charles Xavier, who have far better character motivations than, "I'm ugly." Now before any of you assume that I'm just a hater, I actually enjoyed the movies, and yes, I will admit that I'm not a fan of Jennifer Lawrence, but that doesn't mean that my arguments are wrong. And I will admit that a lot of my complaints are not Jennifer's fault directly, but I didn't want to go into a crazy investigation where I basically ended up accusing people of shit. The whole purpose of this video was just a way for me to list my problems with the character. Anyways, leave your thoughts in the comment section below.